Welcome back to the late day wrap up, of which we have plenty to discuss. Following up on all major markets right now, as we actually didn't even discuss traditional markets or even Forex or Dixie for that matter. So with that said, we have to nail down all world markets right now. And of course, before we get into it, I do want to say a heartfelt thank you, because this is a 3-year anniversary for this channel, and it's been like the highlight of my of the last 3 years for myself. So I want to say a massive thank you from you to me, or from me to you, and thank you for being part of this community. Anyways, with that said, let's get into it right now. Start off with Dixie as always. And Dixie put in a nice higher low on the daily, as we said, was likely coming out of last week. Now looking like it's having a bit of a continuation drive right here. The next sort of short-term signal I'd be looking for is taking out last Friday high, which would be 96.3, and I'd be looking for another run at the high of this rally somewhere around 92.5, and very likely continuation implied over the long period of time. I'll bring up this fucking meme once again, which I've been talking about for the last 3 goddamn months, but it should be denoted that anytime that we have seen about a 3-month consolidation on the lows, which we have seen right around here, 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 which we have seen right around here and here, all of these coming in from the last 25 years actually. Pretty damn consistent with that, in producing some nice macro lows, of which I do believe we are in the midst of doing this right now. First and foremost, obviously getting that secondary closure above the 21 exponential moving average right here on the weekly, pretty damn good, and I'll be looking at that as very likely a basing and continuation signal. Now, of course, could it be a bit of a reversal here as well? I mean, it could be. Your obvious inflection point is going to be this pivot right around 91.40ish region, and even just a tick below there, at below the low of not Friday but Thursday, last Thursday, would be good enough for me to call a swing failure pattern on this one and look for a move all the way back down to 90.5. Is that what I'm looking for at the outset of this? No, I'm not. I'm actually looking for this one to pop back up and very likely make a run towards 92.5 and beyond, which is going to be the next major test. But seeing as we already kind of tested that last week, I'll be looking at the next test to very likely bust through, and targets will be initiated towards about 93.40, 93.5 region, and potential for more continuation on top of that. I think this is also a lot more obvious on the monthly as well, of which the monthly is, well, the monthly is under a little more pressure, to be fair. Man, we still got another couple weeks to go, so you know what, maybe I'll hold off on saying anything more on that for right now, but it should be denoted that yes, we do see monthly Stokes trying to cross the upside. Yes, we do also see this playing off a very, 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 very long-term trend line. I'm talking all the way back to 2003. Oh, I guess I already have it in here. Yeah, 2003 connected with the lows of 08 and 11, and more recently in the year 2021, and that's actually these macro lows right here in, well, 08 and 11. There you go. Anyways, with that said, you know, overall I am looking for this one to very likely try higher. We even have some hidden bullish divergence very likely in progress here on the monthly as well. So I do look for that to trade up, and that it will put downside pressure on just about anything that trades versus the dollar. That does include, you know, stocks and whatnot, although not necessarily directly correlated with Dixie, because Dixie is correlated, well, is measured against a basket of fiat currencies worldwide. So this is going to be a lot more directly relevant for Forex traders out there. If you are trading against the dollar, well, probably going to be more on the side of like the dollar being bullish here on the whole versus those pairings, especially on increasing volatility here too. So with all of that said, let's go check out traditional markets here, because we actually did not look at them at all during this morning's video, which is shame on me for that. And we'll start it off with the strongest of the strong. That's going to be Dow Jones. Obviously want to start it off, well, maybe not with the monthly, it's not too relevant just yet, but the weekly. The weekly closed on new all-time highs, very fucking good. Yes, I do have a bias towards this one. Making new all-time highs, well, I mean, we already kind of made them this week, but I'd be looking for very likely new all-time highs on top of that. Short-term timeframes, however, very similar to Bitcoin in the sense that, you know, could we be looking for a short-term time frame pullback? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do have a little bit of bearish divergence here, a very, very small amount. Wouldn't mind another move back down to about 32,500 or 32,450-ish region, anywhere back down around here. But on the whole, I would be looking for a continuation over the next couple of weeks, very, 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 very likely to new all-time highs. Where's the next sort of targets to the upside, you might be asking? Well, I'd say a very obvious area of interest right around 33,700-ish region. After which I would look for probably a greater pullback and a consolidation between about 33,150 and 33,750-ish region, we'll call it. And that should lead on into our SPY, which is kind of like the next strongest one in this rotational market right now with my very convoluted charts right there. Same sort of thing though. Did we close on new highs though on the weekly? We closed 39.3275 versus 39.31. Yes, this is the new all-time highest close for SPY. So similar thing here, you know, short term, could we have a little bit of a pullback? Yeah, in fact, it looks like it wants to pull back short term, maybe back down to like 39 3900 or 3910 region. I don't have a strong opinion on that. Very, very similar to Bitcoin here too, but ultimately I would be looking for this one to try higher. 2 new all-time highs, very, very likely within these next 2 weeks. Still looking at about a $4,000 plus target towards about 40.11 to 40.30ish region before the next sort of medium-term time frame pullback perhaps. So for right now, I still remain bullish on the whole on this one. Short-term time frames, maybe a little bit of a pullback right there, but this does bode well for the general market. And then of course NASDAQ, the laggard of them all, once the prize leader, now taking a little bit of a slumpy slump here, but I do like this basing action on the 21 exponential moving average, which is going to lead into potential hidden bullish divergence, as technically speaking it has not confirmed a local low here just yet, but if it does, we do have divergence in play, and that will have targets back up towards about 13.5 to 13.6ish region medium term, with very likely continuation to prior all-time highs and new all-time highs on top of that. After all, we do see weekly Stokes are having a bit of a bullish reset here too, at least for the time being, as long as it's still remaining within that 60-ish region. And if we go down to the lower term time frames, is this one looking like what? What is this one looking like? This one's looking like a whole lot of fucking nothing on the short term time frames actually. If I'm looking at the hourly right here, it looks like a clear consolidation. Now I would have, if I was looking at this back around here in 12th of May, I would have looked at this as a potential lower high being put in place before another drive down towards 12.5. Because it has kind of dragged on for a little bit longer, I don't think that that's what's going on. I do, what I'm essentially saying is that given what SPY and in Dow Jones futures are doing, very likely does pull through as well. And I probably would be having a target somewhere back around like 12,250, assuming that it does fall through with that. And then realistically, probably be looking for it to pop back up towards 12,350 over time. This one obviously being a little bit more of a laggard is concerning, of course, yes, but we do have some very obvious continuation points here as well. So I could get medium-term time frame bearish on this one for a big target back down to the lows at about 12,300 if we do take out Friday low, which is 12,760. By the same token, to the upside, could you use this as a continuation point? I actually don't think so. If I was looking at anything for a continuation point to the upside, I want to see like I want to see like a 4-hour closure above $13,000. To be honest though, I do err towards the upside here just because these markets typically play with each other, and the other two markets are more or less bullish on the whole. Short term, a little bit of downside. If this one wants to play out some downside though, I'd keep those targets in mind because that is where things actually do start to change around. Anyways, moving on into, is it gold time? I think it's gold time actually. Yes, indeed it is. Where's my fucking gold though? Where's my goddamn golds? There it is, found it. 1726.90. Okay, sweet one. All right, so we are playing at the bounce that we spoke about last week was likely, or actually the last couple weeks, and I'd still be looking for this one to try again higher over time. I don't think that 1770 to 1800-ish region is out of the question here. In fact, I actually think that that's rather likely, especially as weekly Stokes have had a pretty massive reset. Now they are coming down to this very long-term trend line coming in all the way back from I guess I already have it in there, from 2016. So I look for this to very likely bounce more, at least over these next couple of weeks. Now, short-term could have a little bit of downside here. Yeah, it could actually. If it came back down to last week's open, that would be a very obvious trade. That is right in line with the 89 exponential moving average right there at just above 1700-ish region. But ultimately, my point, or the thing that I most want to get out here, more importantly, is that I would be looking for this one to try bounce up towards the upper 1700s, like 1770 to 1800-ish region, and then come back and judge it after that. Probably going to take a couple weeks, I'd imagine, maybe even a month. But overall, this one's been beat up quite significantly to the downside here. Give it a chance to bounce first, and then come back and beat it up once again, perhaps. Now there is an obvious very bearish point here too. Now I would get extremely bearish on gold, extremely bearish on gold if we take out last Friday low, which is 16.99 If that were to happen, I would look for this one to have a just absolute fucking shatter over the next like couple weeks, down probably somewhere around the 200 exponential moving average right here, which is below $1,600 by the way. So for now, I do still err on the side of of a bounce to the upside. But if that condition was met, then yeah, could start to look for a lot more long-term downside. But right now I'm looking for, a bit of a bounce here and then come back to it after that. Anyways, moving on. What else do we got? Is it Bitcoin time? I think it's Bitcoin time actually. Okay, so let's go into Bitcoin and let's actually wrap it, or let's follow from this morning's video, right? So this morning's video, I was actually learning a little more to the upside here, obviously, as it is, pretty fucking strong uptrend. But more importantly, on the short-term timeframes, we did have a few warning signals, of course. We did have some divergence calls coming in from this last few highs over here, and more importantly, the $58,000 level, which we spoke about, was relevant on stream, did not hold. And this is why I give just the straight and dry, like TA, if you will, because because I don't want my opinion to like get in the way of things, or at least when I do give my opinion, I want it to be like differentiated from the actual analysis itself. And what did we say? If $58,000 does break, then I would be looking for a move down to about $55,000, likely a bounce there, and potential continuation to about 52.5, about $52,500, of which we did see it break right here. We get a closure right below, what was that, 57,850, so technically broken right there. Boom, there's your first move down to 55. Here's your bounce that we're seeing right now, thus far about a little bit over a $2,000 bounce, it looks like. So pretty respectable, to be fair. Well, very respectable to be fair. Now comes the hard part. So I want to be very transparent in this case, and we were actually just going over this on Twitch, and a lot of people found some value in it. So I think that I guess maybe this is relevant to people out there, but I actually don't feel very confident on the short-term timeframes right here. Similar to this morning stream as well. Higher term timeframes, yes, absolutely. There's nothing in my opinion. There's nothing in my opinion bearish at all about the weekly. There's nothing certainly bearish about the bi-weekly, or any of the higher term timeframes for that matter. I mean, this all looks pretty fucking good to me. So long term, it's more or less of a question, where does Bitcoin reaccumulate? Do we reaccumulate? Well, quite literally here at about $55,000. Possibly yes. I think it's a little bit of a weaker case, to be fair, at least given the current structure, but below there, where's the next major levels? Well, going off this morning stream, that would be $52,500, as you can see right fucking here. And then if that area does fail, then we can talk about another move back down towards like $47,500. So one of those three areas is kind of the big ones that I'm looking for potential long-term positions. I did not take position off this one right here, to be fair, as full transparency, I suppose. If it's relevant or not, it's not really to say that you should be doing what I'm doing anyways. It can obviously be fucking wrong all the time. But looking at this right now, if we are going off the 4 hour, and we are kind of basing this off this right now, I mean, we do see momentum oscillators still headed like just completely fucking nosediving south. 3 hour going to be the same thing. Bi-hourly going to be flip-flopping, but still down, and hourly is going to be very weak to the upside right now too, after playing off. Well, actually no, we have nothing down there, so fair enough. Anyways, what I'm looking for right now is I'm actually looking for likely another run at the $55,000 low. I don't have an opinion on whether this breaks or not, so this is going to be very similar to the $58,000 level from this morning's video. If $55,000 does break, and when I say break, I mean I want to see at the very least a 2 hour closure below there. Could I use I really want to see a 4 hour closure below there. Could I use a 2 hour? Yeah, I could probably use a 2 hour, to be fair. I mean, it's not that out of whack here. In fact, we could even use last 2 hour low, maybe even as a continuation point for very aggressive traders, and that's literally at $55,000 even. So I actually do kind of like that area. You know what? Would I stand by that? Yeah, I figure I would. Would I trade it myself? I'm not going to trade it. No. So there you go. There you go. But more importantly, if that area does break or get taken out to the downside, that's going to be an early warning signal that I would be looking for that continuation drive to about $52,500. This is where I would be looking for a bigger bounce, to be fair. This is also going to be playing off some of the major fibs that we see from the last consolidation level around the 786. So I do like that level as well for a natural, just kind of like at the very least bot buy and bounce. So, very likely does try and move back up towards like $55,000. Perhaps I do play a position there. But more importantly, what I'd be looking for now is I'd be looking for some signs, some signals of some sort of bottoming behavior, which we don't see on the lower term timeframes just yet. So with that in mind, I am more inclined to be looking for further downside here in the short term. If I did have to call it right now, if you put a gun to my head and said, Krown, call it, I'd say $52,500 likely, maybe over the next day or two. But again, long term, I want to be very fucking clear with this, because my fear is that I'll say short term downside, and then someone's going to be like, Krown, you said short term downside, and Bitcoin went to $60,000. It's like, well, yeah, because that's probably later in the fucking week. And it's also possible too. But here's the thing. So if Bitcoin does break back above $58,000, yes, I would look at that as more immediate bullish. So the way that I look at it is structurally wise, I will have an inherent natural bearish bias on the short and medium term timeframes as long as we're below $58,000 right here. And the next target would be about $52,500. Now, Bitcoin could come back up and close above that region. Yeah, game on once again. We can talk about targets into $6,000 regions and beyond. But for right now, it does look like a little bit of a more hefty pullback. Should be noted that the daily does have bearish divergence in play here. We even have 1, 2, 3 drives coming in from the high at about $42,000 and the high at about $58,000, and then our more recent high at about $60,000 or so, $61,000 we'll call it. And usually I will target the 21 exponential average on this one as well, and that is, well, that's right around your $52,500 region. And we do see that momentum also is turning down here too. too. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Mr. 777 in the Discord, because he was actually looking at this earlier on, right before the stream I saw, and you know, he's completely right about that one. So good call on that one, and yes, that would have been a damn good indication earlier that Bitcoin was going to test some downside here. So with that in mind, you know, I do think that Bitcoin does likely have a little more short-term downside, but ultimately I want to be very fucking clear about this. I want to be abundantly fucking clear about this. I'm not bearish on Bitcoin long-term. There's nothing fucking bearish about this chart right here. Nothing at all. I mean, Bitcoin come all the way back down, you know, a little bit below 50,000 bucks, like 48, 47,000 bucks, and still be in a pretty damn good posturing from a long-term perspective. This is a bi-weekly, by the way. Weekly looks, you know, equally as interesting too, getting new all-time high closures, plus divergence plays off that one as well, as we can see back on over here. This was actually confirmed as of yesterday at 8 p.m. Eastern times. We do have daylight saving times right here. So I'm going to have a natural inherent bullish bias, but short term, you know, does that play out? I suppose I probably would be a little bit more in line with that. Get Bitcoin a few days here and then come back to it after that. So with that said, I want to be very, 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 very transparent with my lack of confidence on the short-term timeframes. Higher-term timeframes, yep, you know, I do still favor those. I do still like those. You know, any time frame just like 2 day and above looks pretty damn good to me. But short-term timeframes, you know, do we see a little bit more continuation of the downside? Probably yes. Is there any sort of trend lines to be aware of here on the 4 hour? Not anything that's too compelling, at least anytime soon. I mean, we have this guy down here, but that's way the fuck down there. So, you know, that would obviously imply like 52,000 and a half at least. So fair enough on that one. Again, on expanding volatility. So that likely does come with a little bit more downside testing alongside momentum. So with all of that said, you know, short term, a little bit of sideways, a little bit of downside, bearish, short term, medium term, as long as Bitcoin's below 58,000 bucks. Long term, nothing's really changed there. So I'd be looking probably for a little bit more of a dip to the downside. Dip, buy the derp. Buy the fucking derp. Jesus Christ, man. I fucking hate that Mimi. And then give it a chance somewhere right around there. If you do start to see a momentum also start to curl back up, especially if Bitcoin does reapproach 58,000 bucks again, that would be a damn good indication that that is going to be an early reversal signal in the short-term timeframes. We can start talking about 6,000 and beyond once again. Anyways, with that said, I do want to wish you the best once again. Take care and see you soon.